What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick and Taylor Kyles here for CLNS Media, and we're laughing because we don't know what to say. The Patriots are coming off a 40-7 Week 17 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers from right behind us at Gillette Stadium. We are inside because we didn't feel like putting in much effort to get outside because the Patriots didn't put in much effort today either. Again, losing 42-7, they fall to 3-13 on the season, and they come into the bye week, out of the bye week, Taylor. 4 games left, and our main thing about, Jerod Mayo's job and this team and where this team's going and where they're going to be heading into 2025 was you can't get embarrassed. And 2 out of their last 3 weeks so far, they've gotten embarrassed. Justin Herbert throws 3 touchdowns on them. Ladd McConkey scores 2 on them, who the Patriots, obviously, as you I'm surely well know now, traded back in the draft with the pick that the Chargers ended up taking McConkey, and they take Jalen Polk. McConkey had more yards today than Jalen Polk has had all season. Ian Rappaport before the game said that Jerod Mayo is basically safe, barring a calamity. Now, what we're going to discuss on this show was this a calamity today? Did this warrant the Crafts making a serious decision, at least having a serious conversation about Jerod Mayo's job? Puts his foot in his mouth again, says Ramondre Stevenson is not going to start the game. He ends up starting the game at running back. Now, granted, he only gets 2 carries compared to Antonio Gibson's 12. So we got a lot to get to. We'll talk about job security. We'll talk about Drake Maye coming back from or what looked to be a concussion, and then he returns to the contest. Christian Gonzalez leaves with a concussion as well. We'll talk about the offense. We'll talk about the defense. We'll come to you here live from Gillette Stadium for all of it. But first and foremost, Taylor, general thoughts on this game. Nothing really great. Before we just came on here, I read the box score wrong, thought, hey, they didn't have any penalties. So we're like, oh, there's at least one good thing that came out of this game, but doesn't even look like there is again as they fall 42-7. So quick thoughts on the game before we really dive into it.
It's bizarre. I feel like I almost didn't watch it. It was just so much bad. And obviously the weirdness with Drake Maye getting the concussion and then him leaving, coming back. Gonzo gets the concussion. So mentally, you're kind of just like, wow, okay. Going to be one of those games where obviously Drake Maye came back and that was great. But just 2 potential big injuries to your blue chip guys. Also, not 100% sure that Drake Maye, like we were joking about this after the game, not 100% sure that he wasn't concussed because there were some weird misses. A couple of throws he made that I thought were just a little off. Like there was one to Hunter Henry. He threw between 2 defenders, wasn't really close to anybody. So I don't want to get too deep into that because Drake still had some positive plays, but just an embarrassing day. And that's all there is to say. Like, I don't think this is going to be a very long show because there's not a whole lot to cover, to be very honest.
Right.
The run defense was fine, I guess. Pass defense this was one of their worst performances all year. Jonathan Jones, this is the second time this season. Mostly, he's been pretty good, but he looked slow today. And you don't really see that a lot from John Jones. Obviously, he's lost a step, but against Ladd McConkey, a guy who ran a 4.39, you really saw how age is starting to kind of wear away at Jonathan Jones's game, and McConkey just went off. And then offensively, just couldn't get anything going. Typically, this has been an offense that can move the ball up and down the field pretty well, but then the red zone issues are really where they kind of get in their own way, and obviously penalties. But it just didn't feel like anything was working today. It didn't feel like it was necessarily the penalties, and they weren't moving the ball. Even when Drake got in there, obviously, like Jacoby Brissett, one throw that he has in the entire game during his series, wild miss that wasn't even close. So just
that started the many boos that came down in the stadium.
You had the fire Mayo comments, which he said he heard. Devon Gotcha heard he was not happy about. We'll kind of get to that later because he had some interesting comments after the game. And honestly, you're starting to see it in the fan base. We've said throughout the season, like the crowd just haven't really been as big as they typically are. Today, it was bad. There was not a lot of people here when we pulled in. There weren't a lot of people in the stands during the games. As it got worse, even more seats looked like they opened up. For me, literally the most entertaining part of the game, other than DeMario Douglas' touchdown, that was absolutely sick, was watching a Chargers fan below me trolling Patriots fans. He was just like flaunting his jersey and just telling him like, bye. It was honestly kind of hilarious. I hate to see Pats fans having to take that L. But, I mean, for the team, it was deserved because this was a horrible performance. And like we said, a stretch where you desperately needed to show signs of improvement. Now the goodwill you got from that Bills game, which should have been able to kind of carry you through the season if you were just competitive against the Chargers, that's out the window. And we are once again talking about whether or not Jerod Mayo deserves to keep his job. I know the reports have said, Jacina Anderson, the entire game was tweeting about how Jerod Mayo still should be safe and that there are going to be big upgrades made around him, pointing out how he's still in his first season, bringing up Dan Campbell. This is not the same as Dan Campbell. I tried to give grace. I was like, all right, let's see what they do after the bye. It's a long season they already had. Maybe get some rest. You come back rejuvenated and firing on all cylinders and tighten up things you need to as a coaching staff. That hasn't happened. So with Dan Campbell, it was very different. Obviously, they go 0-10. Then after their bye week, they did show those signs of improvement, and they've shown gradual improvement since then.
Right.
And at the very least, you could say Dan Campbell's team is tough. They want to play physical. They want to punch you in the mouth, XYZ, all the things that Jerod Mayo has said he wants this team to be, but we have seen almost none of it throughout this season. Run game has been okay in spurts. The defense has been fine in spurts, but not nearly enough consistency for anybody to sit here and honestly say that Jerod Mayo deserves a chance because of Dan Campbell. Completely different situations. You don't know what Mayo has to hang his hat on anymore, and I'm sorry. I don't know how you could possibly justify bringing him back next season outside of the fact that Kraft handpicked him, and obviously it's his first season, but I don't care. This clearly looks like a pretty big mistake. I'll give Elliott Wolf a bit of a pass because he really was in a tough spot. Obviously, taking Polk over Ladd, yeah, that's a mistake. But they couldn't really
admit it.
Yeah, but no, I oh my God, I can't. What am I going to say now? I can't say anything.
We got to get Dennis on here. We'll give him the old Jalen Polk treatment.
It was a pick to fill a role, which again, we acknowledge that during the draft, we still said that if they didn't take offensive players in the next couple rounds, everybody would have exploded. Sure. But still, McConkey's still an offensive player, so I'm fully willing to take the L. I'm learning. No, seriously, I learn every single week. I'm trying to get better, and I don't want to be like the Patriots. I actually want to get better. So I don't even know where I was going on my rant, but just Mayo does not deserve to keep his job because he hasn't shown any reason to hold on to it. I was saying with Wolf, I give him a bit of a pass. Let's see if he can actually capitalize, spend the money that they have, capitalize on having 4 top 100 picks, do those things and maybe prove that you belong here. Because he's at least made some positive moves. Draft Drake May, the Matthew Judon trade where you get a 3rd round pick for a guy who's barely doing anything this season. Like there are things you could point to for Wolf and say, okay, you know, you had your L's, but you also had some dubs. I don't know what dubs you can point to for Jerod Mayo outside of their opening win, obviously, against the Bengals, where they got some momentum. And then a couple other wins where looking back on it, just not very convincing because those were tight games. It wasn't like they were consistently good. They just managed to pull it out a couple times. So
let's,
I got to stop.
I'll cut off the Taylor Kyles rant quickly, just to, we'll kind of get into what the Patriots, where they're at heading into this final week and about Jerod Mayo's job security, because the entire season, for the most part, we've sat on here on Patriots Postgame, on Patriots Daily, and for a majority of the season, basically until right after the bye week, we have been firmly behind the idea of giving Jerod Mayo the chance at a multi-year rebuild. He's a young head coach. He's never really done it before, which, it could be an issue in its own right, but Robert Kraft handpicked him, had the confidence in him. He's been through it here. And we knew, and basically every report that comes out about it is, the lack of personnel, the lack of roster help that, frankly, Bill Belichick and company set him up with has given him, or should give him, the opportunity to have this multi-year rebuild. But here we stand, 3-13. Patriots at best can match what they did last season. And so Ian Rappaport reports this morning, him and Tom Pelissero on NFL Network, that barring some type of calamity over the final 2 games of the campaign, the expectation is that Kraft gives Mayo another season to prove him right. And I think that that's the interesting part, is to say it's to prove Robert Kraft right.
That's
a
bad look. That's a real bad look.
Because it doesn't even, right? It doesn't even sound like, they're going to give him the chance because they think he deserves it. Right. It's because, we made this decision. We want to give him another chance because I don't want to look bad and think, okay, I had to fire this guy after 1 season. It's almost like you need to be able to admit you're wrong when you're wrong. Like I was going to say, like Taylor Kyles with Ladd McConkey over Jalen Polk. Obviously, I was
wrong about Mayo too. I love the storyline of a guy who came up, was a career Patriot, was, baby Belichick, as they always called him, then led the defense. Like there were signs where maybe this is another DeMeco Ryans. Obviously, that was the first comparison a lot of people were making. And of course, Ryans had a much better Texans roster in his first season as a coach. But you could also see that team had an identity on both sides of the ball. Patriots don't have any of that. Right. And I really was rooting for Mayo. I wanted to see him succeed. I thought that Kraft, as someone who had seen him grow up over a decade, did have a good sense because he's hired Bill Parcells, he's hired Pete Carroll, he hired Bill Belichick. So it felt like, Kraft kind of had the juice and knew what was there to find those good leaders. And I think Jerod Mayo, outside of obviously the whole head coaching thing, I think on a person-to-person level, I think he has been pretty good, but that doesn't matter if you can't put results out on the football field. So that's another place I will fully take my L. I really wanted to see Jerod Mayo thrive here. I thought there were reasons why he could, but the fact they didn't do the head coaching search, which I didn't think was a huge deal, again, kind of trusting Kraft's judgment. Sure. Now it looks terrible. Now that completely blew up in your face. So like people like me who were kind of saying, hey, give Jerod a chance, I got to take my L too. And I need to recognize, but I'm not in leadership. I can't make any
Right.
decisions. And I really hope that whatever happens by the end of the season, the Crafts can honestly look themselves in the face and say, do we need to make a change? Because I don't know that anybody other than Justina Anderson is giving reasons why Jerod Mayo should keep his job.
And that's kind of what I want to get to here is what are
No offense, Justina.
No,
I understand.
but what are the reasons to keep him, right? And the one is the roster, I guess. But somebody else can take on a bad roster and try and do a better job there. The other one that we've mentioned is the locker room, and another one we've kind of asked, what does he do well? And you even asked Devon Godshaw this after the game, and he wasn't even really able to give an answer. Here's what Godshaw said to Taylor when asked about what Jerod Mayo does well.
It is that Jerod Mayo does behind the scenes. It kind of helps him with his team.
I mean, everybody play a part in it. It's just not Jerod Mayo. You know, I don't know. You know, that's way above my pay grade. Everybody plays a part in it. Players, coaches, front office, everybody. You know, so we just got to get better as a whole. Everybody. And the players got to take accountability because we the one go out there and put the film on tape. You know what I'm saying? Mayo can't play no more. His year's been done. But I mean, the fire Mayo chance is ridiculous. We just got to get better as a team, as a whole organization. We just got to get better. We got to do more. We got to do more, and we're gonna see better results. You know what I'm saying? Like, I believe in this organization. I believe in the players I go to work with. We just had the probably the best team in the NFL playing right now on the ropes last week. You know, and everybody's talking about fire Mayo chance, and the Bills considered the best team in football right now. I mean, they're definitely the hottest team in football. So I mean, we had them 14-0, should have won the game. You know, did a player or two play better, and we beat the Bills, but. I don't believe in all that other ridiculous stuff. I mean, the guy's first year. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
So that's Devon Godshaw on the situation with the coaching. Now he does give quite a Belichickian answer there, where he basically pivots from your question and turns it into something else. But so he doesn't answer what Mayo does well, but he's also not wrong in that it's not just Jerod Mayo. I mean, the front office last year into this year haven't put them in a great spot with talent. I know obviously LA Wolf brings in Drake Maye, like you mentioned, and makes a couple other good moves with Judon and things like that, but a couple other mistakes there. They don't have the talent on this team to compete with not just the likes of the Buffalo Bills last week, but the likes of the LA Chargers. And so that's kind of where we are with that. I know Keon White, who spoke out, we mentioned on the podcast yesterday, spoke out with Karen Garigi, and this is another just the nonsense around what Jerod Mayo says, what Jerod Mayo doesn't say, what he tells the media, what he doesn't. And, we talked about it already he said pregame that Antonio Gibson was going to be the starting running back, and then they try Ramondre Stevenson out there. Go ahead.
And just to that point, I know players don't care about those things. A lot of the time they'll bring up, like, when there's criticism of Mayo, they'll say, like, oh, the comments, we don't really care about that. We just care about what happens in the locker room. They may not care. The Crafts should care.
Right.
Because it makes your organization look bad when nationally people know that Jerod Mayo is known for walking back comments. And if that was the only thing he was doing wrong and they were still competitive, that's one thing. But the Crafts have to be honest with themselves and say, you are making, or even Belichick, he struggled, obviously the talent acquisition. Like, he wasn't great in his last season either, but you still saw the fight, and he wasn't going out there and making the team look bad in press conferences. And that is what Jerod Mayo's done. So it may not make the players upset.
Right.
If I'm the Crafts, I'm saying, dude, and we know that obviously he started to become more Belichickian.
Sloppy.
It looks sloppy. It just seems like he doesn't have a very good grasp on what's going on with his own team at times, or the disconnect with Alex Van Pelt, where this is one decision where it's like, okay, did Van Pelt start him and you didn't know he was going to start him? You've had other comments where they kind of don't seem like they're on the same page. It's just all of these things where I very rarely listen to what Jerod says and think that something good is happening behind the scenes. Again, I've tried to say, he's young, maybe just iron some things out, but he has said himself that the measure of success was going to be how this team played after the bye and down the stretch, and the result has been horrendous. So I'm very curious how Jerod Mayo feels, and if he thinks he deserves another chance if he was giving himself truth serum, because I don't see what you hang your hat on. And again, I'm going to go on another rant again. But
let's talk about the locker room and kind of the guys being behind him, because that's something we've continued to mention on this show, is that so long as he has the locker room and the guys in the locker room, that it's hard to fire a coach after 1 year. And now Drake Maye still has confidence. He mentioned it today. He mentioned it last week. And that's a quarterback. That's quarterback speak. He looks like he's been to the Bill Belichick media school already. He knows exactly what to say when he gets behind that microphone. But Jonathan Jones today, mentioned, what did he mention again? You just said it and now I forget.
Jonathan Jones.
Basically that they weren't playing hard down the stretch or something like that.
Let's read this.
This is Daniel O'Callaghan. Jonathan Jones said something similar, but Daniel O'Callaghan, speaking with Andrew Callahan after the game, said, I feel like towards the end of the first it's been a long year. I feel like towards the end of the fourth quarter, some of the guys just gave up and some guys played to the whistle. To speak for myself, I've seen a lot of stuff out there. It feels like a lot of guys just started giving up when things get hard. He also said, I feel like guys got to buy into what we're doing here. like we know we're going to hit adversity. That's what builds character. I feel like when we hit adversity, that's when we've got to come together and try to finish things the right way and play together. So again, it sounds like some guys are playing hard, some guys aren't. I know that Jonathan Jones had some pointed comments later on as well. But to that point, Taylor, where the locker room is out, I actually want to mention Keion White too. I know we actually have. Well, I'll get to you. I want to get to his audio here first, where he spoke with Karen Gregan earlier this week and mentioned that he wants to sort of take a look at where his future is going to be in the next, or after heading into the next couple seasons. Said he wants to, be able to produce more and things like that, and that the NFL is a production-based business, and he didn't know where his career was headed right now. And so then Jerod Mayo said pregame to 98.5 The Sports Hub that he and Keion White had a long conversation, and that his comments were basically taken out of context. Keion White was then asked after the game, what did you mean by your comments? And White said, I meant exactly what I said. Here's more of what Keion White had to say post-game about his future with the Pats and where the Patriots are headed under Jerod Mayo.
Changes are coming?
I mean, yeah, I hope so. If changes aren't made, then what are we doing? Again, the NFL is a production-based business, so if we're not doing anything to change our production, which is lost, what are we doing?
Well, what changes are you hoping for?
Let's take 2 more here.
Again, it's not for me to decide. First and foremost, I'm changing how I play the game.
Not a bad answer from Keion as far as taking accountability for himself and saying that, I need to change myself before anything else in the organization changes. But sounds like he's ready for change, whether that's coaching, whether that's players, whether that's DeMarcus Covington, personnel, something around the building has to change. I think that's the main point here, Taylor, is that I'm not, from myself, not exactly sure what has to change. I mean, right now it feels like head coach because it starts from the top down, but you can't just run this back next year. And we've talked about this being a multi-year rebuild and a 2025 and beyond team. That's sort of been my cliches and what I keep coming back to is that give these guys a chance because the roster's been so bad, etc. But when it's this ugly and you don't see improvement in not only year to year, but as the year goes on, something's got to give. And at this point, it might be that coach.
Yeah, and I mean, with Daniel Aquale's comments about the players kind of giving up towards the end, Jonathan Jones's comment was that they start off slow and it seems like they don't have a lot of fight.
There we go. That's what
those are coaching comments. Like
right.
You expect last year, as bad as the Patriots were, you could see the buy-in they still had under Belichick. Those guys were still fighting their butts off. Obviously, talent is one thing, but that feels like an indictment on Jerod Mayo that you feel like, one, you're not getting off the very hot starts. I will also say the Patriots had this issue for the past couple of seasons, especially on offense in terms of slow starts. So not necessarily just a Mayo problem, but the effort late in games. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago. I thought that was a massive, massive issue against the Cardinals, where on the Cardinals' last 2 drives where they scored, it felt like the defense really wasn't putting up that much of a fight. You got guys like Devon Godchaux, who he said, hey, you're not pulling me out. Like, I understand it's a blowout. Heineke's in there. I still want to play. I still want to compete. Keion White also mentioned something I thought was pretty interesting. He said that football is a violent game. He wants to play it violently, but it seemed like he didn't think that the team or the defense as a unit was playing that way consistently. And obviously we see it on the field. Also think it's kind of interesting that we hear players defend Mayo. Maybe it's because they haven't often been asked directly about DeMarcus Covington. I've rarely heard anybody really go to bat for him, but it does sound like, we've heard so many people. Mario Douglas said that they needed to make changes. Keion White said they needed to make changes. So, I mean, defensively, I feel like it's kind of leaning more towards DeMarcus Covington, but I think this team also just realizes that this isn't good enough. And it's just very striking to me because it seems like it falls into that bucket that we talked about, where once the locker room starts saying certain things, and that's what we figured was going to happen. If they get blown out multiple times, things start to unravel. Players start to speak out. And yes, like obviously there needs to be change. It's not like they're saying anything that we don't know, but still those kinds of comments feel like you start not losing the locker room, but it just feels like you start losing the buy-in from the players, not just necessarily because of the head coach, but just because they're frustrated.
I'm trying to figure out how to transition this into our next thing and where we're going. I'm thinking about ads. I'm thinking about what just happened. And it's just like, it's funny. We're on a post-game show and this is supposed to be like instant analysis of the game. And I have notes on the offense. I have notes on the defense, but I feel like we could just go on about the job security and the future of this team, mainly because the game doesn't really matter when it's 40-7 and what happens on the field. And, we joke that we barely remember the actual contents of this game because of how ugly it was from the top down overall at a 30,000 foot view. So you continue to wonder where this team is at and where things will go from here. I guess we can, I know we have actually some Drake Maye sound. Let's go to Drake Maye. He spoke about, and I mentioned him having that sort of quarterback speak around around the security of Jerod Mayo and Alex Van Pelt. Let's go to Drake Maye. Listen to what he had to say about Drake Maye. I can't do this. I'm losing my mind. What he had to say about Jerod Mayo and Alex Van Pelt.
I got my bell rung in the first drive. I don't know if any of y'all ever played, really got hit, but you sometimes get your bell rung and got to shake back. So I guess the spotter called down again and had to pass some tests. So I feel good, still feel good, and I feel like I was good to go. And then just the game, I think, just things weren't going their way. I think kind of felt like a little bit of Arizona. We really couldn't get in a rhythm offensively, and obviously the pitch was unfortunate. We had a blitz off the edge that just happened to be a good call on their part, and then just felt like all day we were nothing they were doing. We just got to play cleaner football and got to help our defense out when they're moving the ball well. Stay on the field. Time possession was pretty one-sided. They're not quitting. They're still coaching as hard since week one. They're still studying film as hard. Still meeting. We're still meeting as hard. So I think the biggest thing was this: you don't see those guys quitting. And I think the score may not tell today, but I feel like these guys are still wanting to win. We're still leaving it all out there every week, and I think that was kind of my message to the team, man. Is give it all you got, man. It's our last two games and this one today, so we got one more chance next week, and just leave it all out there.
The toss to Demario Douglas, the fumble there.
Yeah, just we practiced play for a long time. I feel like we were executing well, and they have to bring the nickel off the edge, and I think he's kind of right by pop, and that's gonna be unfortunate. Just a good call on their part, and then I got to give to him a better ball to catch. That's really falls back on me. So I think kind of Pop may have readjusted his thing a little bit, his route or his path, just because of the blitzer off the edge. But really, I just got to give him a chance to can't turn the ball over.
It was kind of helpful to get that comment about why the play went wrong, because looking at it live, it's like, have they practiced this before? And apparently it's something that's been in the plan for quite some time. But yeah, there was that slot blitz, so he had him taking responsibility for both ends of it. Definitely could have been a better pitch. Like when it came out of his hand, I was like, where is this supposed to be going? I probably expected Pop to be somewhere else, and it's just such a bang play. Because at first I was like, AVP, why are you calling something like that? Because it seems like those guys aren't prepared. So that's one area where I guess we can give AVP a little bit of slack.
And I didn't hate the call itself, because we asked for, more. We were talking about before the game, more window dressing, more different ways to call the same play, handing it to different people. As long as guys are in the same spot, you get the same run action, you get the same, line protection, etc. So I liked the idea of it, but the execution, it looked like they had never practiced it before. May ended up saying after the game that they had, practiced it a lot. But he also mentioned the time of possession. Patriots lose the time of possession battle to LA today, 40 minutes and 34 seconds to 19 minutes and 26 seconds. So just not good there at all. He does mention, we go back to that, what does Jerod Mayo do? And he backs them. And all he says was we had these guys he has us continuing to fight. They come to work every day, but you got to come to work every day if you're going to do your job. And the defense is saying they're not continuing to fight, and they're kind of giving up their play. So it's all
Mayo can't say that, because then obviously he's throwing guys under the bus. But yeah, there's a disconnect. It's like, well, the messaging is very different, and you may think they're coming up and putting all this work in. Maybe that's happening in practice, but it's not happening on the game field. And at the end of the day, that is what matters.
Exactly. Let's try and get into this game a little bit, Taylor. We see Drake Maye get concussed on their. I keep saying concussed, but he came back in. He gets hit in the head. He leaves with a head injury, goes into the blue medical tent, goes to the locker room, and then ends up returning. He finishes the game here 12 of 22 for 117 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions for the first time in 7 weeks. He does have a turnover on the fumbled pitch to Demario Douglas, sacked 4 times, a quarterback rating of 34 and a passer rating of 84.8. A lot of pressure in his face. The offense as a whole goes 2 of 10 on third down, goes 0 of 3 on fourth down. He also takes 2 tough sacks on fourth down. One of them, it looked like he had Hunter Henry open. The other one, I think the offensive line just wasn't able to hold up. So a poor performance from the O-line. Drake Maye looks so-so, has the nice play to Demario Douglas down the middle, gives him a chance. It was a good throw. I thought it was a better adjustment from Pop Douglas, where he put it in the right spot, but Douglas had to kind of get around that safety and go in.
He took a big hit as he let that go, and I think he knew, hey, it's a free play. Let me just try to give Pop a chance. It reminded me of the Kayshawn Boutte catch against the Jets win, where it was underthrown and he came back and slid and caught it. It reminded me a lot of that play. So amazing play by Pop. Very heads up play from Drake Maye.
Great play by the two of them. What did you make of Maye's performance overall? Kind of up and down, but again, a turnover that wasn't necessarily his fault.
Yeah, I just thought it was this is when I'm gonna have to go back and watch because
Yeah.
again, like I said, I thought he might have not been 100% right in the head because there were some weird throws and decisions that I didn't totally understand. There was also the throw to Kayshon Boutte, that deep target where Boutte ran a double move. I asked him after the game because it looked like he stopped running again. And I asked him what exactly happened on that play. And he said he didn't want to go into detail, but that he and Drake were on the same page, which to me sounds like he didn't think he was going to get targeted and didn't run a full route, which is mind-blowing because we've heard of the for the love of the game routes and all of that. And also Drake is not the kind of guy who's always going to throw to who he's supposed to based on the play or whatever. You should always be running routes hard. Brady would have probably thrown him on the bench at that point because we know he said, do not run a half-assed route. I could end up going to you based on whatever I see.
Right.
You are never necessarily out of the progression. So that's just another frustrating element is like, another reason you need to upgrade this receiving core, especially is because it just seems like every week there's some glaring mistake from the wide receivers. And it's whether it's effort, whether it's not knowing what they're supposed to be doing. And I do honestly think that Dan Pelt is a very detail oriented coach because you see Hunter Henry, you see Austin Hooper, like those guys are doing the right thing consistently. Obviously you get the hold on Henry and things like that, but you don't see the same kind of struggles as with the wide receiver room, which kind of tells me that maybe they should make some upgrades at the wide receiver coach position as well. You know, as much as I was intrigued by Tyler Hughes and Tyquan Underwood, really cool story coming back, actually worked with wide receivers at Pitt. So you're hoping maybe they could be a good group, but those guys have struggled. So yeah, but overall, going back to Drake Maye, it was second week in a row that I thought he was sporadic, but I'll have to go to the tape and really see for sure.
Yeah, and it's hard to blame him when everything else around him is so sporadic as well.
And when you're in such a hole early as well, and like everything gets very predictable.
Right. Not a fan, like you said, of Kayshon Boutte slowing down for the love of the game route where, okay, on one hand, if you get lazy, that's just selfish because that's also opening up something for somebody else underneath where, oh, I'm not going to get the ball, so I'm just going to half-ass my route. Like, that's BS. And I think he's done a better job at being a team player this year than he was last. Now, granted, he wasn't given a ton of chances last year, but early on, making blocks, things of that nature, running his routes hard, even if it wasn't coming his way. But we've seen a lot lately, him slowing down and kind of not staying in a groove there. So hopefully.
And also the comments where Mayo and Van Pelt both acknowledged that they had to have a second conversation with him. You shouldn't have to have one of those conversations, much less two, if you already had, like, oh man, just another disappointing area. Yeah, Kayshon Boutte, he's made some plays and you got to give him his credit for that, but it's also just like the inconsistencies in the ways that he's been inconsistent are very, very frustrating. And the reason why I don't have, like, Demario Douglas, I think will have a role in this passing game next year. Kendrick Bourne might as well, but I think you can upgrade at every single receiver spot.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, we're going to get back to it. Finish up the offense, talk about the defense, but first, a quick word from our friends over at Prize Picks. We will be right back.
Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. They now offer MasterCard as well for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. And they put their members first. All withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you get your money in as little as 15 minutes. So join now because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're also giving away $30+ million in rewards during Pickmas. Think James Cook will get more than 60 yards next week? Think Joe Burrow will pass for more than 1.5 touchdowns? Cook up your hot takes with your friends all season long on Prize Picks. And all you got to do is download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, that's Prize Picks. Like we said, code CLNS. You get $50 instantly on the Prize Picks app when you play your first $5 lineup. Myself and Taylor went with more for Antonio Gibson today. Let's find out how many rushing yards he had.
He had that one big run, so I think he got it.
I believe. Oh, he had 5 yards in the first half. Sorry, I got to pick up my game book on the ground here. Take this nice and slow before we talk about our other partners. Gibson, 63 yards rushing. You're right. He did it. He did hit that, but we also had Ladd McConkey to have less than 70.
That was real bad.
That was tough.
Bad. I thought he was going to get I thought he was going to get that against zone. That was the oldest I've ever seen Jonathan Jones look. That was tough.
Yeah, very tough. 94 yards total for Ladd McConkey. So we miss on that Prize Picks, but we'll be back at it next week with the Buffalo Bills coming to New England, where you can get in to Gillette Stadium for as little as $41 on the Game Time app. So before we get back to a quick word from our friends over at Game Time, and then we will wrap up this Patriots postgame show.
It's the holiday season, and that means it is also the best time to watch and attend your favorite sports games, and you can do so right now with the Game Time app. Game Time is focused on togetherness this holiday season, and that means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and it's the perfect holiday gift. They also have their new feature called Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to live events even easier. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks, best feature. They also have all-in pricing. You toggle it on, and it shows you the exact price you're going to pay at checkout. No fees, no garbage, just the price right there on the app. They also have seat views. It gives you a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy your tickets, and they also have their lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets today with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time. Good stuff. It is game time. Download the Game Time app. Use code CLNS. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, if you want to come down and have some fun, it's not going to be fun watching the game next weekend, Taylor. But if you want to get in a fun parking lot for $40, tailgate, find a friend, go to Patriots Place, drink a couple beers, do whatever. Head over to the Game Time app and use that code CLNS. You get $20 off that first purchase. Terms apply. All right, let's wrap up the offense here a little bit, Taylor. We talked about Drake Maye, but the rest of the offense. The offensive line, Cole Strange comes in, plays center for the first time in his NFL career this week, and I thought he played pretty well. Only a couple real hiccups. And then Demontre Jacobs on the right side doesn't play a great game, ends up getting, I don't know if I want to call it benched for Caden Wallace, but
yeah,
they end
I
up
think
giving,
it was just like,
they end up giving Caden Wallace some added reps. They're the rookie out of Penn State who returned this week for the first time since October with an ankle injury. So what did you see from the offensive line in front of Drake Maye as far as pass protection goes, but then also the run blocking in front of Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson?
The Caden Wallace thing was kind of weird to me. I'm guessing they just didn't think he was healthy enough to play an entire wire-to-wire game. But like when he was out there, he played a few series. Honestly, his kick slide is better than anybody else that they have at tackle. I tweeted, it was a breath of fresh air. I'm watching him like, oh my gosh, he actually looks pretty good. This is Demontre Jacobs, he's been working his butt off. He's a player who's been kind of thrown into a position where he's in over his head, but he's not the fleetest of foot, we'll say. So that was kind of nice to see from Caden Wallace. But yeah, another not great game from Trey Jacobs. I know there was one run stop where he got completely whiffed on a block against Joey Bosa. Cole Strange, I think there was one play where he didn't come off a blitzer. It led to a quick pressure where Drake had to scramble out and throw away. I think there was another play where the sack where Bosa and Khalil Mack met at the quarterback. Seemed like Cole might have snapped it early, but like we've been saying for weeks, whenever Cole was going to get in the lineup, we knew there was going to be some hiccups. He wasn't going to have a perfect game. So yeah, overall, I think he was fine. Mike Nwenu had a quiet game. I don't think anything happened with Vidarian Lowe either. So Layden Robinson also was pretty quiet. So I'll have to go back and see where exactly what the pressures were caused by. Derwin James obviously has 2 sacks, both on 4th down. One of them in particular, I think if Drake had a tick more time, he could have hit Hunter Henry for a conversion, but that was also in the game. It was pretty much out of reach. So tough to evaluate the offensive line. One thing I will say is the run blocking was damn putrid.
Yeah.
That was awful. For the entire game, they couldn't get anything going on the ground. That's kind of the second week in a row they've struggled with the ground game. Ramondre Stevenson had some success last week at times. Antonio Gibson really didn't get anything. He was getting hit in the backfield consistently. So this is the second week in a row that it feels like the run game has taken a step back after I've been giving them credit for a bit of a resurgence over the past, it'd been like over a couple months. So that was disappointing. Pass protection, I'll have to go back and see exactly what the hiccups were there. But yeah, Cole Strange is really the headliner. I thought he did a good job, and Caden Wallace also looked good in the brief time we saw him.
Not a great day offensively, obviously, when you only score 7 points and you go scoreless in the second half. So I think that'll do it for the offense. Again, we did a lot about the Jerod Mayo job security. I know we'll wrap up the show with a little bit more final thoughts there. But as far as the offense goes, Drake Maye looks okay. Run game, not great. The wide receivers, Again, not great. Jalen Polk plays 3 snaps. Looks like he hurt his shoulder. He was walking around with ice on his shoulder after, again, really only taking 3 snaps. Look, he
also weird that Mayo didn't like call for a or for pass interference.
Yeah.
The defender was pulling his shoulder pad as he it was not good tracking from Jalen Polk. I don't want to completely like get him out of the woods, but
we're not exonerating
another
him
weird
for the play.
kind of thing from Jerod Mayo where he was just standing there and it's like you can see this man's shoulders being pulled on your sideline. Thought that was kind of funky.
Yep. All right, let's transition here to the defensive side of the ball, because this is where I get really frustrated with this team, because you bring in a defensive head coach to replace Bill Belichick, somebody who was supposed to be, I don't want to call him, he was never lauded as a defensive guru or genius or anything, kind of like he was not the Sean McVay of the defensive side of the ball or anything like that. I don't want to put that on his shoulders, but he's someone who was supposed to come in here with experience. And again, what on the defensive side of the football, linebackers coach, essentially lauded as a co-defensive coordinator alongside Steve Belichick, and the defense gets so much worse this season. This was the 6th game this year that they let up 30 or more points. The 2nd time they let up 40 or more points, and today they had no pressure at all on Justin Herbert. 0 sacks. Ladd McConkey goes for 8 catches, 94 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's their go-to guy. We talked about that for the last 5 weeks since we've started talking about Ladd McConkey and the comparison with Jalen Polk, where as long as you take away Ladd McConkey, the rest of the wide receiver room's not very good. We saw some tough drops from Quentin Johnson. Josh Palmer's no one to write home about. The tight end is Will Dissly, who, take Will Dissly or leave him, frankly.
He had a conversion.
He did. He was good today because you didn't cover the guys you're supposed to. And it's like, it's maddening where Ladd McConkey, the go-to guy, the 8 catches, I keep talking about it, where in a Bill Belichick-led defense, he would have had 1 or 2 catches max, I'm telling you, because that's what they would do. They would take away your best guy and they would have you beat them with everybody else. The exact opposite happens today, and it's been happening all season long against the Patriots. Now, Christian Gonzalez leaves with the concussion, which that's tough as well. That's going to kind of hinder your ability to cover a guy like McConkey. He leaves, I think it was the 2nd quarter, and didn't return for the rest of the game. But yeah, not a great performance defensively, letting Justin Herbert throw for 3 touchdowns on you. The run defense wasn't great either. So your thoughts on the defense overall?
I do wonder. I don't think they would have, because actually, no, this is one week where I think they probably I'm pretty sure Gonzo was on the boundary, and it sounded like that was what was going to happen all week. I do wonder if they would have made an adjustment and put him in the slot to cover McConkey if he'd been available. I don't think they would have, but I wonder. And then just the bottom line is John Jones. Like, I think going into the game, I was like, I think he could do well against Ladd McConkey. He's a guy who's seen a lot of really shifty and talented route runners, but really just the physical mismatch more than anything was tough. There were some times early on where one of the most frustrating things I will say is the Patriots said they knew the Chargers were going to have man beaters for their man coverage. But the Patriots had no answers on 3rd down. The Chargers kept getting chunk play or conversion after chunk play or conversion on those 3rd downs, because the Patriots make no secret about it. They play a lot of man coverage because that's where they're best. But really, it just was not good enough on 3rd downs, which is why the Chargers had so much success. The Patriots tried to mix it up a little bit, play a little bit more quarters sometimes, so they weren't quite as predictable. But still, I didn't really love the effort there. But it was a rough performance, obviously, from Jonathan Jones. He's really the one that you are most concerned about going forward, I would say. I think we knew that he had lost a step, but you're saying, okay, I kind of figured he's an automatic re-sign for next season. Now I'm saying, I don't really know. Should they? Should they not? Should they move positions? I'm really not sure. And then, of course, Kyle Duggar as well. Now, he was responsible. Ladd McConkey put him in a bit of a blender on, I think, Ladd's first touchdown. But Duggar was in the area for both of the early touchdowns from the Chargers. Just still doesn't look like he's right. Still not moving well, but also just feels like there's been some mental mistakes too. It's really disappointing when 2 veterans are the guys that you're most concerned about. Like, I thought Isaiah Bolden and Alex Austin actually played pretty good games for the most part. But yeah, that was really disappointing from the pass coverage specifically. It was a joke all game. No pass rush. It's not really something you expect from the Patriots, honestly. You're hoping that Keon White gets a pressure there. He said that he was double teamed a lot, even though he did have a couple of successful reps. One quick pressure off the edge. That was pretty nice. But Patriots weren't getting a whole lot of heat on Justin Herbert. You're seeing him just really easily go through his progressions. Herbert's a guy where even under pressure, he can make some really good decisions and really good throws. But when you give him all the time in the world, you're going to get a result similar to what you got today. So the pass rush was awful. Run defense, Devon Gotcha said that he thought they stopped the run well. I thought they were fine. I thought that the Chargers were getting yards when they ran the ball when they needed them. They just weren't getting a ton of explosive
That's the issue.
carries.
The numbers are the numbers, but when you need a 4th and 2 or a 3rd and 2 or what have you, and you can get it, that's still not good run defense.
You can't stop the run when you know they're going to run.
Exactly.
Yeah. So disappointing effort there, I would say. And I just kept coming back to it in this game. For all of this team's issues, up top, things like that. I really think if they make a point to fix the offensive line and the defensive line, it fixes a lot of their problems because they're getting run on and they're not getting pass rush. How do you fix that? Build a wall up front with a bunch of bad MFers. On the offensive side of the ball, get a line where you can consistently run the ball, where they don't make a ton of mental mistakes, where obviously they can hold up and protect your third overall pick at quarterback. So I feel like if this team can really build up the trenches, even more so than the receiver problems, even more so than linebacker, safety, what have you, I think those are the big areas where this team can improve pretty quickly. But,
there's a lot of luxury picks. I mean, obviously wide receiver, we did luxury picks on our mailbag the other day, but I mean, we talk about the comparison to the Detroit Lions. They've improved and their offensive line is stout. Defensive line,
multiple
really
first-round
good.
picks.
Yeah, multiple first-round picks, like you said. So it's those type of things where, you got to get it done up front. You got to get it done on the defensive line. Obviously, we'll see if they can continue to do it. But yeah, they lose 40-7 today, Taylor, and things are not going well here in Foxborough. Any kind of wrap-up thoughts here? I do want to ask, we've talked about what Jerod Mayo has to do to lose his job the last 4 weeks. Well, he's basically done everything he's had to do to lose his job. You lose 3 games, 2 are blowouts. You play the Bills close, which honestly, at this point, I don't even care about that one anymore. What does Jerod Mayo have to do next week to keep his job at this point? Like,
if he is truly on the hot seat and they would actually consider firing him?
Yeah, like,
which I'm still not convinced. I think they should, but I'm still not convinced that they're there. But
you're on. They should fire him, but you still don't think
they should seriously consider it.
Okay.
Maybe not 100%. And if you don't fire him, you need to make some serious acquisitions on the coaching staff. Maybe a senior defensive assistant if DeMarcus Covington isn't fired, which I still think he should be, and just somebody else, I think, in Mayo's ear to make his job easier, give him advice, and just help him be a better head coach. Because from what we've seen, obviously, plenty of problems there. And then what was the other one? I'm sorry.
Just what he has to do to keep his job if he is on the hot seat.
You have to blow the doors off of the Bills' backups. It's such like a stupid little caveat. And how much confidence does that inspire? Not much, but that's what you have to do. You're playing backups, make them look like backups, have this same score, hopefully a shutout for the Bills offense next week. That's the only thing I think you could do to inspire any kind of confidence, which even still, I don't see how you end the season with people having any faith that Jerod Mayo deserves to be back.
It's tough. The only thing you have right now is Drake May and Christian Gonzalez. Really, that's the only thing I look at with this team. Even guys like Keon White looks like he might want to be out of here. Christian Barmore.
I've said I would trade Keon White for a top 100 pick.
Right. The other top player is Christian Barmore, the highest paid Patriot since Tom Brady. You don't know if you can rely on him, and nothing against him, but that's just the reality of the situation. So it's one guy on one side of the ball and Drake May, Christian Gonzalez on the other. As far as I'm concerned with everybody else, figure it out. We'll see what happens. Everyone else is replaceable at this point with the Patriots as they lose this one 40-7, falling to 3-13 on the year. As far as where I am on this Jerod Mayo topic before we close this out, I'm on the side of I think you really have to consider it because this was uninspiring. This is stuff where the team does not look like they're playing for him, for his job security. Keon White was asked too, I think it was by Mark Daniels, do you feel like you guys need to play better for your coach? And he basically said, no, we have to play better for ourselves. And I mean, that's a good point. It doesn't necessarily have to be for Jerod Mayo, but
play for pride.
Play for pride. Yeah, play for yourself. But it also doesn't feel like they're necessarily as behind this guy, even if it felt like right before the bye week where, it felt like there was still some buy-in. They felt like they were in the right direction. Things just continue to go awry here. So I don't know if they will. I'm kind of starting to think that with the fire Mayo chance today, with the lack of fans here, with the blowouts, with Jerod continuing, to step on his words and say the wrong things at the wrong time. Two more today. Again, we talked about it, but the Ramondre Stevenson comment and the Keon White comment. It's like he's not on the same page with people. He's not on the same page with his offensive coordinator, his players. It feels like the bottom continues to fall out of this thing. So at this point, I don't even think I would be surprised if they end up making a move. There's the Mike Vrabel.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think you'd be surprised. I would be more surprised, honestly, if they keep him and don't, again, make those big changes.
Yeah, that's fair. So we'll see what happens. Mike Vrabel's still out there. I'm sure there's going to be more Vrabel, more Josh McDaniels rumors. Ben Johnson's out there, could want to play or coach with Drake May. So we'll see what happens. We'll cover all of it this week here on Patriots Press Pass with CLNS Media. Again, Patriots lose this one 40-7 in Foxborough. Myself and Taylor will be back on the Patriots Daily Podcast this week, breaking this thing down. Don't know about tomorrow, but probably early Monday, try and get an episode out there to break this thing down a little bit further once we get some 24-hour, 48-hour treatment here and look at what happened in this game. So we'll be back. Patriots will be back next week as well, taking on the Buffalo Bills here in Foxborough for their Week 18 matchup. So thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. Rate, review, subscribe to the channel. Comment what you guys think on this video about what happens with the Patriots moving forward, Jerod Mayo's future, and all that good stuff. We appreciate the support. And until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we will see you all soon. Peace out, everyone.